culture is what we do every day to prepare people for that, you know.
I almost see it like a compass. Like the coaches are the compass of what culture is.
Yeah.
They're going to point you due north,
Right.
and say, hey, this is the way that we're going to build great culture. You're going to become a great man, great husband, great employee, et cetera, et cetera. It's the athlete's responsibility to then follow the compass.
Welcome to the Game Changers League podcast, where we're cultivating culture and shaping the future of sports with our conversations. My name is Aaron Johnson, and my co-host here is Corey Murphy. We're glad you're joining us for this conversation tonight, talking about how culture plays out in athletic programs and what we've seen from our experience, both as a former college baseball player, as a high school basketball coach, athletic director. So some of these conversations tonight are coming from that experience. We're going to be bringing in a lot of different guests to be a part of our podcast in the future, and we're glad that you're a part of this conversation. So, Corey, why don't you take a moment and just introduce yourself and talk about your experience as an athlete and kind of what your playing career was like.
Yeah, my name is Corey Murphy. I went to Chelsea High School, Podunk Town in Oklahoma, that nobody's ever heard of. I went to play junior college ball at Butler Community College in El Dorado, Kansas. Spent 2 years there, and then I've played 3 years, one of the years being canceled due to COVID, at Rogers State here in Claremore, Oklahoma.
That's awesome. We got to know each other through church, actually, and just through sharing our experiences and just building a relationship. Corey's become one of my greatest friends. His wife Abby Murphy and their son Baker got another son on the way. Yep. So building a family, man, doing some awesome things here in Claremore. And I'm excited to have you as a part of this journey with me. So my name is Aaron Johnson, as I said, and my coaching career spanned over about 20 years. Started out at Leesburg High School as an assistant coach. There down in Leesburg, Florida, and also was an assistant coach with our varsity program and was a head coach of our freshman team, and then transitioned back home to South Carolina, where I'm from, and coached in several schools in the state of South Carolina, Dillon Christian School, Holly Hill Academy, and St. John's Christian Academy, where I eventually became an athletic director there, and had the opportunity to coach a lot of different student athletes over the years and see the impact of how sports, played out in their lives. I've always said that sports is a microcosm of life, that it really teaches student athletes how to respond in life. Okay, and what I mean by that, what I think of is like how every team faces adversity.
Sure.
How do you deal with that? Being a part of a team, learning how to operate within community. These are all life lessons that sports teaches us, okay? How to be coachable and how to be able to be developed and equipped, whether, in a sport, how that plays out whenever you're walking out your career, all of those things. And so, as part of that, we understand that, like, the culture that's created within a team, within an athletic program, plays a huge role in what lessons our student athletes are learning. So, Corey, why don't you take a moment and tell us about, like, what that means to you? Whenever you think about how it's impacted your life playing.
Yeah, I think sports is way more than people make it out to be. My wife says all the time, like, it's just a game, which to a degree I can agree. But I can genuinely say that I've learned more life lessons from sports than I ever thought was possible when I started. You might start out playing just to have fun.
Sure.
But in every sport, it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. It doesn't matter the level you're playing at. There's going to come a point in that sport where not only do you hit a physical wall, but you hit a mental wall.
Yeah.
For me, mental toughness is like one of my greatest things. It's one of a real passion in my heart, because in no other avenue of life, or you take like extreme conditioning, for example. Like when I was in junior college, we had unreal conditioning. We were running as a pitcher. I was a left-handed pitcher. We ran every single day without, well, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. Without question. Thank you. Without question, we were running.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of how far we were running. And then like during hell weeks at the beginning of the year, we would do literally just the most brutal workouts with the sole purpose of I'm going to run the people off that don't really want to be here.
Yeah.
And so, you hit walls in life, right? But then in sports, like I can look back on my life in junior college where there's no other time in my life where I was to a point physically where it's like, all I want to do is throw up and lay down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, it's not only the physical barrier, but it's the mental barrier of like, hey, your mind's telling you like, you don't need to be doing this. You need to just stop.
Yeah.
And sports to me is like, okay, what am I doing it for? Because not only am I doing it to get better, I'm here suffering with my brothers.
Right. That's right.
And it helps build the culture that we're talking about. Yeah. So it's like, no other avenue of my life have I been to a point, a literal breaking point, not only physically, but mentally, of being like, there's no reason I should be doing this. I need to just stop because it's unrealistically painful.
Yeah.
But you find a way to push through this reality that like your mind can take way more than what your body thinks it can.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like sports is that avenue. And it's the story of my life that I was never the most talented individual, but my dad always told me like, you might not be the most talented, but there's no excuse for not being the hardest worker.
Yeah.
And so the work ethic that's instilled in me personally through sports, through my own personal experience, is how I earned my keep on the teams that I was a part of because I wasn't the most talented. I didn't throw the hardest. I was a left-handed pitcher who threw 85 miles an hour. That's vanilla, I had a curveball and a changeup. I was a 3-pitch guy, but I like my heart and every single thing I did was not out of a place of pride, but genuinely out of place of trying to function in excellence I don't want anybody to work harder than I do.
Right.
Because I want everybody that's around me to know you're getting my absolute best. That if I fail, if my talent fails me, I have an off day, etc., it's not because I didn't give you everything I had.
Right. That's the only thing you can control, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell athletes all the time, there's only 2 things that you can control: your effort and your attitude.
Yeah.
Everything else is really is conditional. I have a daughter that's playing high school basketball now, and that's the thing that I tell her because she's one of those. She's a lot like me. She puts a lot of pressure on herself whenever it comes to performance. She wants to perform well. And I get that. The mental side of that is teaching student athletes how to control their attitude, control their effort, because those are the only 2 things in life you can truly ever control. I was blessed as a young man. I had a father that worked hard and taught me work ethic. So whenever I took that to the basketball court, that was my mindset. I was always smaller than everybody else. One day I'll bring in my picture from high school, my freshman year. At Holly Hill Roberts High School, and I was like 4 foot nothing and just skin and bones, Yeah. And so but my mindset was I'm not going to let them outwork me. They may be bigger than me, stronger than me, faster than me, but I'm going to outwork.
Yeah.
I'm going to work or at least just as hard as they were, and I was going to show that I belonged there. And so that's part of that mindset you're talking about.
Yeah.
So how has that helped you throughout your life and your marriage and your career as you've progressed?
Yeah, man, I could go a long time on that. I think it's this kingdom principle that I see of functioning in excellence.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest part for me was, this might not really address the question, but when I was younger, even when I was an athlete, like I always worked the hardest, but I was working out of the place that I felt like I didn't belong.
Yeah.
I was working for affirmation. I was working for man's praise. I was working for all these things. Not to say that there wasn't fruit from it. There was. But I was so unsettled in my soul that it led me to this performance paradigm that I lived in that there was never enough.
Yeah.
Enough was never enough. Like it didn't matter how well I pitched. It didn't matter how well our team was doing. It was never enough. But I can say that on the other side of that, I look back and like there's some of the most formative years of my life that what was instilled in me through athletics was this attitude of it doesn't matter what comes or how hard it may be, I can get through it.
Yeah.
They're like, no matter what, it doesn't matter if I'm bloody, laying on the floor, throwing up everywhere because I'm exhausted and I feel like I can't go another inch.
Yeah.
I have more.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's that principle in every aspect of life, right? That
Right.
like when marriage gets hard, it's like, no, we can keep going.
Yes.
We're going to make it through.
Yeah.
You know?
I love it. That's awesome. You know, talking about the culture piece of that.
Yeah.
All right. You grew up, you went to junior college and then went to Rogers State University.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have one of your former coaches on with us hopefully soon, Jeff Lozornio, who, you know, spent a lot of time talking about this specific piece of
Yeah.
it. How a culture within the program affirms you regardless of how you can perform.
Yeah.
But affirms you as a young man that has value
Yeah.
outside of just your performance.
Sure.
You know, talk to me about that. Talk to me about some of the coaches that were a part of your life that helped you, you know that you had value even on a day whenever you didn't have your best stuff on the mound.
Yeah. I can genuinely say that the first time I ever experienced that, from the time I was 4 years old when I started playing ball to when I finished at Rogers State, the first time I ever encountered somebody like that was the coaching staff at Rogers State University. Yeah. And I'll continue to talk about this, but I want to take a little side tangent because it relates to culture. And I want to look you directly in the eye as an athlete. You shape the culture.
Yeah.
As an athlete, the athletes shape the culture. The coaches might help foster the culture,
Right.
but the athletes are the creator of the culture.
Yes.
I'll use the example. When I was in junior college, I had that attitude of like, nobody's going to outwork me. It made me public enemy number one on my team.
Yeah.
Everybody hated me because the culture that was currently present among the leaders of that team was, we're going to do what it takes to get by.
Yeah.
We're going to cut runs because we went on a run every day. It was a 2.5 mile run that the coaches couldn't see it because it was off the baseball field. And it was like, it was so common for the very first time we did it, I didn't know what the route was. And so I'm going on the route. Well, half the team goes off one direction and I'm going a different direction with another guy. And I'm like, well, where are they going? And they're like, oh, he's cutting it. That half of the team is cutting it.
Wow.
And
You would think at a junior college they'd be doing the opposite.
exactly.
They're trying to earn a spot somewhere else.
Absolutely. But the culture of that team was, we're going to do the minimum. Whatever it takes to get by. If coach don't find out about it, he'll be none the wiser. Yeah. To me, I didn't care if every single person cut that run from that day forward. There was not going to come a day where I cut that run.
Yeah.
But not because of the coaches are going to find out and I'm going to get in trouble, but because that's not excellence to me.
Right.
That's not, I was told to do something and I'm going to go do it to the best of my ability. And the reality is the guys that were cutting runs, I was finishing the run before they were doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
That made me public enemy number one. In the weight room, I was by far the weakest guy on that team. But a lot of our workouts were endurance-based.
Yeah.
And I was just working people over by just giving everything that I had. And everybody on my team hated me my freshman year. I was the outcast of that team. And by my sophomore year, a new culture had started to emerge.
Right.
And I'm not saying I built a culture by myself, because there were those that were faithful and they did what they were told and they did do the full runs and they did go hard. But it was like that silent minority began to become the loud majority of like, you know what? No, we're going to do this right.
Yeah.
We're going to do everything we can to do things the right way. Not because coach told us to, because it's the standard I hold myself to.
Right.
And like, that's what creates the culture.
Yeah.
And so when I came into Rogers State, because I came from that toxic culture, when I came into Rogers State, I got the exact opposite. Yeah. It was everybody working on the exact same tandem of like, we're giving everything we got, no matter what, no excuses. I don't care if it's easy. I don't care if it's hard. We're doing exactly what we need to do to put out our best effort.
Yeah. And the result of that for y'all, one of those years was a conference championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lost to the regional finals to the number one team in the nation. Lost game 3. It was a best of 3 series, and we won game 1, lost game 2, and ended up losing game 3 after having a 9-run lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's tough.
Yeah. That team went on to, I believe, got 3rd in the World Series that year.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, but culture is created by the examples that are set.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of coaches, ads that they think that they can build culture by throwing some words up on a wall in a weight room, or
Yeah.
having 4 or 5 catchy words, to try to shape culture by. And it's so much more than that. Like, people don't understand. Culture is not what you do sometimes; it's what you do consistently, right?
Yeah.
It's built through what you do consistently.
Yeah.
Through consistently finishing those runs and doing the things that you were doing, and so many other student athletes have done throughout the years to be a part of championship level teams.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that's really that I'm really passionate about as a coach and as an former athletic director, currently coaching. Just started back into coaching back on the sidelines this year here in Oklahoma. And so, that's something that I'm really, really big on, is like how we build culture. And you said it, the student athletes are the ones who build culture.
Yeah.
Coaches foster it. Coaches may set direction. Coaches may navigate some things.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's how the student athletes respond,
Yeah.
what they do, and how they carry that out. One of the things that I think is important in that is how we coach character, right?
Yeah.
And not just coaching the X's and O's, not just coaching through drills and repetition, but how we coach character. What are the standards
Yeah.
that we're building by? Part of that I'm really passionate about is helping student athletes understand that I'm not just here to try to get you to be a part of a winning program for the sake of winning games.
Yeah.
I'm here to teach you how to win in life.
Absolutely.
That's my passion. And I think that athletic programs, teams, coaches, student athletes that focus on building each other up, equipping, empowering their teammates, their players, are the ones who really win in this.
Yeah.
I'm a big Clemson fan.
Yeah.
You're a big OU fan, and at Clemson, one of my heroes in coaching is Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that he's so passionate about is about developing men.
Yeah.
And he's always said, if I'm developing good husbands, good fathers, good employees, then I'm winning.
Yeah.
Championships are a byproduct of the culture that's created in that,
Absolutely.
right? He's like, championships aren't the goal. The goal is in creating great men.
Yeah.
And if I create great men,
Championships will come.
championships are going to happen.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen every single year? Absolutely not. Things happen in sports, right? We have setbacks, we have injuries, we have disappointments. But if I am consistent in my approach towards developing men, then those men are going to learn how to do the things necessary for us to win,
Yeah.
and we're going to win some championships along the way, and that's the joy in it. That's kind of the byproduct, the fruit of it. But culture is what we do every day to prepare
Yeah.
people for that.
I almost see it like a compass. Like the coaches are the compass of what culture is.
Yeah.
They're going to point you due north,
Right.
and say, hey, this is the way that we're going to build great culture. You're going to become a great man, great husband, great employee, et cetera, et cetera. It's the athlete's responsibility to then follow the compass.
That's right.
And like to touch on Dabo Swinney for a second, the way that you can see, to me, culture is revealed when failure comes.
Yeah.
Everybody can have a great culture when they're winning championships every year.
Yeah.
To me, the greatest testament of the culture that Dabo Swinney has built at Clemson is last year when they had one of the most disappointing years
Yeah.
that they've had in recent time,
In over
the
10
last
years.
decade.
Yeah.
And it's like to watch his players not for a snap give up, drop their head, get just because it's so easy at that point to just pack it in.
Yeah.
But that's when culture really kicks in.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we failed, the standard doesn't change.
Right.
Hey, we messed up, we had a disappointment, doesn't matter. We're right back to work.
Yeah.
And it's still the same intensity, the same effort, the same passion, the same drive. And you saw it.
Yeah.
And you look on the flip side of it, of Florida State this year.
Yeah.
Undefeated last year.
Yes.
Gypped out of the playoffs. They think that they were one of the 4 best teams. They don't get in. They're picked as an absolute favorite in the ACC this year. and everybody thinks they're going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
they're 1-8.
Yeah, you had teams, projecting them to win the ACC, be in the playoff, and I was at the bowl game last year when Clemson played Kentucky, and I mean they were down in the fourth quarter, and but you didn't see the quit. You continue to see the fight. The other thing is you didn't see kids opting out.
Yeah.
You didn't see players opting out and missing the bowl game.
Oh, you opening up a big can of worms now.
Oh, yeah, we are. Xavier Leggett, who is playing it for the Arizona Cardinals now. I mean, this guy knew he was going to be a high draft pick, but he was committed to playing the bowl game. You didn't have guys opting out of the bowl game. You didn't have guys transferring after the season. I think they had 1 or 2 transfers. Bo Collins, I think, went to Notre Dame, and Makumba went to Texas. But both of those guys had already graduated. You know, and that's one of the things that Dabo talks about a lot. Guys don't transfer out of the program. Because of the culture that's built there.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, I know that there's other people that have other teams that they follow, and they may be biased towards the transfer portal and all those things. And I get that. I get the season, the times that we're in. But I think there's something to be said about somebody who says we're going to do it this way, because in the end, it's not just about wins and losses for us. It's about developing men. And so, those are the conversations we're going to be having this year.
Yeah.
And really, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
Conversation ongoing. So
I want to say one thing about the transfer portal.
Yes.
To me, it does speak to culture, because I'm not saying that athletes can't be put in a tough position and transferring is not the best option. Yeah,
there's times for it.
It's not an overarching statement,
Right.
but I will say this: if you have an athlete that just because their team didn't perform the way that they desired to, and they transferred out because they didn't like the situation they were in, when life gets hard, their immediate response is to run.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's easier that way.
Yeah.
It's easier to leave. It's easier to not play in the ball game.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know what? No, I made a commitment.
Yeah.
I'm going to be true to my word, and I'm going to stand on the culture of this program, and I'm going to continue to be the one that says, you know what? No matter what it takes, I'm going to give maximum effort every single play of every single snap of every single game, come what may.
Well, and you said a key word there. Commitment means something different to everybody these days, doesn't it?
That's true.
We see so many guys, they're like, I'm committed. I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to the school. I'm committed, But
you see more decommitments now than commitments.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that is the big news. Who decommitted, not who committed,
Right.
And programs like Clemson are no exception to that. I mean, especially now with NIL, and you got guys out there, they're trying to get the bag while they can get it, and I get all of that. I understand it. I have no problem with student athletes being paid. There's a lot of value brought into athletic programs by the work of the student athlete. But if you're selling your soul to it, now that's a whole different issue.
Right.
And there's a lot of guys out there that are. And I can't judge which ones are and which ones aren't. That's not what I'm here to do. But yet at the same time, we see the byproduct of it. We know that it's happening because you're seeing guys quit when it gets hard.
Absolutely.
Whenever they don't get their way, and so that's a guy that they've sold their soul to the NIL deal rather than, being committed to a process, to a coach, to a program, even whenever it's hard. Or whenever they're not making as much as they think they should make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, there's a lot, and we'll talk a lot about these things. And, one of the things that'll be a staple in this podcast will be relevant conversations about what's happening today in sports and how it is shaping the future.
Yeah.
And how we want to, bring some light to that, because I believe it's important. I work with young student athletes. I work with high school, sometimes even middle school student athletes. And it's really important to me that we grab a hold of a set of standards, across athletics, across sports, that we grab a hold of a set of values that are important for shaping young men and young women for the future. Okay?
Yeah.
Not just shaping sports for the future, but ultimately in shaping sports for the future, we're shaping young men and young women for the future.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about some of these things. I'm excited about the conversation.
You opened the can of worms. You started talking about
Well, let's do it.
opt-outs, and you started talking about NIL. to me, the opt-out stuff, the opt-out of the bowls, it's something that I've never really understood.
Yeah.
And here's why I don't understand it. I'll give you my perspective as an athlete. My draft stock, now I'm not saying I was going to get drafted to the MLB because I wasn't. I did have an opportunity to go play some pro ball.
Yeah.
I didn't take it. I decided it was time to get married. My wife and I were already married at the time, and it was
You
time to
didn't
settle
want to
down.
sit on a bus for
Yeah.
4 hours.
It was time
you
to settle down
yeah.
and start a family, and it's what she wanted too. So, but I will say, I can't foresee a situation in my life because they don't opt out of the national championship.
No.
They don't opt out of the
No,
playoff.
No.
They're opting out of the Music City Bowl.
Right.
They're
That's
opting.
right.
They're opting out of the New Orleans Bowl. They're opting out of the quote unquote nobody bowl.
Yeah.
To me, what that says is the opportunity to win a championship is more important to you than your team.
Yeah.
Because you could get hurt in game 12 just like you could in the bowl. Nobody's out in the bowl cutting knees on purpose.
Exactly.
Nobody's out intentionally trying to hurt the stars.
Yeah.
So you opting out is you saying, I want the paycheck more than I want to stand beside my brothers that I've bled, sweat, cried with, and fight one more time.
Yeah.
And that's Corey's opinion. That will probably be a massively unpopular opinion in today's culture. But to me, as an athlete, I cannot fathom looking my teammates in the eye and saying, hey, I'm not going to go because I want to go make some money.
Yeah.
I just can't see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would stand with you 100% on that. My thing is like if the Music City Bowl is what you earned, right?
Yeah.
I mean, take it or leave it, whether you like it or not. I mean, if that's what your record earned you, go play the Music City Bowl.
Right.
Go finish. One of the things
because it's a testament of culture.
It is
how you finish.
It is. One of the things that, like, what's interesting, like, I can remember I grew up playing basketball in some schools that were not big on basketball per se. They might have been bigger on football, right? And I can remember, football coaches that literally, like, because one football coach that I played at that school was a part of anyway. During football season, the basketball goals in the gym weren't even lowered down. Like, you couldn't shoot on them. You know what I mean? They had to stay up. And the reason being was because they didn't want the kids that were playing football to lose their focus and get involved in another sport. The second reason is they didn't want an injury, right? Like, it's like we don't want to risk that. One of the things that amazes me about Dabo's program, and I've been to Clemson and I've been to their facility there, is that they have basketball courts in the football facility. Like you can go and play basketball in your free time, and they do it regularly. And he's not worried about somebody tearing their ACL, breaking an ankle, whatever it may be. Like, he's out there playing basketball with them. You know what I mean? Like, that's, Dabo's pretty competitive whenever it comes to that type of stuff. And like, because the reality is anything can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, but so I get it. It's like, well, I may lose millions of draft stock, all of that. I understand it. I'm not saying that it's, but my thing is, like, you got guys that, man, they're going to be lucky if they get in the 7th round.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're opting out. And I'm like, dude, you ain't even a top 3 round draft pick, and you opting out from a bowl game.
And here's the truth of it. I don't care if you get hurt in the bowl game or not. And not to say that I don't care if somebody gets hurt. But if you get hurt, you might drop a couple of picks, and you might lose a little bit of money your rookie contract.
Right.
Okay? If you perform and you're a dog like you think you are, guess what? When it comes time to get paid, you're getting a maximum contract.
Yeah.
They're handing out maximum contracts like Oprah.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
So if you perform to the level that you think you are,
Yeah.
you think you're so valuable that you got to opt out of the bowl game. If you played that bowl game and you got hurt, you might lose a little bit of money on your rookie contract. Woe is me, you lost a couple of $1 million out of tens of millions.
Yeah.
Okay? When it comes time to get paid, if you truly are the dog you think you are, when your rookie contract's up, you're getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And see, this is the mindset of a student athlete that was a dog. Okay, Jeff Lozornio, we're going to bring him in here soon. I'm hoping he's going to be on here in the next week or so. I asked him a question one day about you. I said, describe to me Corey Murphy as a baseball player, and that was the word he used. He said he was a dog. He said, I knew that if we had him on the mound, we had a chance. Okay, and so that's, high praise for you from Coach Lozornio. But I think this is an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And how does this impact culture, or how does this reveal culture? You said it. It's culture is revealed by the attitude of the student athlete, by the decisions that they make. And in the world that we live in today, there's not a lot of people talking about this.
It's true.
We like to talk about who got the big contract. We like to talk about who had the big stats. But I believe it's important. I believe it's important.
I agree.
That we continue to have this conversation piece around culture, around sports, around character, and what do we see, shaping that, and how can we help? If you're a coach out there, if you're a student athlete out there, I would encourage you, listen to this podcast. We're going to have a lot of meat on the bones for you to pick from. There's going to be some great some controversial meat. There's going to be some entertaining meat, some controversial meat. We're going to bring some people in, because let me tell you something. There's nothing, if you're going to talk about sports, you got to have a little bit of trash talk. You got to have a little bit of entertainment associated with it, and we're going to do that. We're going to have a lot of fun. But we're also going to talk about some real issues, and we're going to do that through the conversations that we have with coaches, student athletes, and we're working on that lineup right now, and I'm excited about where this conversation is going to go.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a blast. I want you guys to tune in. You'll be able to find this on YouTube. You're gonna be able to find this streaming on our social media pages, and tune into the content, share it, like it, follow our page. We're excited about where this conversation is going to go.